Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here, again with a Master Duel video for you. So, we're taking another look at Mathmech. This time around, I wanted to make sure that I had actually updated the build with some of the more modern support in mind. I think last time I played Mathmech was like pretty shortly after the terahertz came into the game, and I hadn't actually really experimented with it yet at the time of recording. But now I have, and indeed we're actually playing the build quite differently. This is kind of a variation of Mathmech that I've been meaning to try for a while, where we're playing the quote-unquote Code Talker variant. Particularly in the main deck we have the Microcoder as well as the Cynet Conflict. The idea here is that we're not playing like Link Disciple or Link Devotee or any of that other stuff in the extra deck. Instead, we are looking to end on the Transcode Talker and the Decode Talker Heatsoul for our end board on the first turn. And we can use the Microcoder in hand to help us achieve that combo line. It's definitely not necessary. And I actually don't think I had a game where I actually drew this card during my testing session here. So I've seen some builds play 2 copies. I could definitely see how 2 copies to make it more consistent would be pretty good. But I didn't really have too much trouble pulling off a lot of the plays that we need to make, even without the Microcoder. The Microcoder is really just a nice thing because not only can be used as a link material from the hand, but when it is used as a link material, you can add a Cynet spell or trap, which could of course be your Cynet Mining, but it could also be the counter trap Cynet Conflict, which is pretty much a solemn judgment if you control a Code Talker monster. And not only is it, negating a spell trap card or monster effect, but it banishes it, and then your opponent can't use cards with that name for the rest of the turn. So that's pretty good. In turn, we are only running the one Laplacian. We're not doing the turn 1 Laplacian setup because, again, we're ending on Transcode plus Heatsoul on turn 1. And, speaking of ending on Heatsoul on turn 1, we have actually built our deck a little bit more in line with the mindset that we're going to be drawing cards, not only during our turn, of course, but during the opponent's turn as well. The main thing that I've actually changed in order to reflect this is you might notice that we're playing 3 Effect Veiler, but only 1 Infinite Impermanence. Now, normally I would probably do it the other way around, right? Like play 3 Imperm and then 1 Veiler. Because I think Imperm is, generally speaking, a little bit more flexible than Veiler, right? It, of course, can be used from your hand during your opponent's first turn, or before you play anything during your first turn. And it can also be set and activated face down to be used as disruption, right? But there is an instance in which, Imperm is not as good as Veiler, and that's if you draw it during your opponent's turn. And, of course, the Decode Talker Heatsoul is definitely, going to be drawing you cards very consistently during your opponent's turn. Again, it's part of our turn 1 end board, so that in mind, we definitely want to be drawing Veilers, not Imperms. So 3 Veiler, 1 Imperm, instead of the other way around, like we might normally do. We have the Dotscaper as well. Dotscaper is a fun little Cyberse monster that can summon itself back when it is banished or sent to the graveyard. And it's mainly here to act as our small world bridge. But it's also just generally pretty nice to have around in order to be able to, make your end board a little bit more consistently by just acting as multiple extra materials. Not even just the one, but multiple. And this deck doesn't often need its normal summon on turn 1 to make plays, so in that regard, it's really nice to have that as well. We're also playing a single copy of the Mathmech Multiplication here in this build, and that might seem a little bit odd, but it's really good with the Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. You see, the Dark Fluid can pump itself up by 2,500 attack points. That'll put it at 5,500, so then if you're able to throw a Mathmech Multiplication into your combo line, which is definitely not hard to search out, of course, with obviously it's Mathmech, right? Between Circular and Cynet Mining and the Small World, etc., and the Alembertains, it's definitely not hard to get a specific Mathmech monster if that does end up being what you need. And then the Dark Fluid can double its attack points from 5,500 to 11,000, and then as long as your monster has, as long as your opponent has any monster with 3,000 or less attack points on the field, then you can just run over it for game. So that's why the multiplication is in here. It's for that OTK line, and it's just generally really nice to have another OTK line alongside the Accesscode Talker. So, another thing to explain in the extra deck is this Mereologic Aggregator. Seems probably pretty weird to have this because it's a rank 9. It's like we don't even have level 9 monsters. How are we summoning this? Well, we're not summoning it. We're using it for its second, and I don't know if it's second. I think it's actually just the ladder effect here. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a face-up card on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn. So the aggregator does not care at all how it does end up getting sent to the graveyard. So we can send it directly from the extra deck to the graveyard with the terahertz here. And in addition to bumping up terahertz by 2,500 attack points, it will in turn also negate a card on the opponent's field. So that's why it's here in the extra deck. Plus, we have the room for it, so it's kind of like, why not, you know? Alright, that covers, I think, pretty much everything that's, like, majorly different from the other build that we showed. This kind of build that I'm showing here is definitely seems to be the more popular one. And you know, again, I think having multiple OTK lines is definitely going to be, I don't know, there's merits to having it over, like, the, I think in theory, stronger turn 1 play of, like, not only hand ripping with the second Laplacian, but also then setting up the Appaloosa. But to be fair, that does also require quite a few things to go right in order to pull that off. You need to, of course, be going first, and you need to have not only the circular but also another extender in hand. And if you don't do that combo line, it makes it a little weird to be running the 3 addition and the 3 subtraction like we were in that other build. Of course, we're only playing 2 of each here, but yeah, I don't know. And the Link Disciple and Link Devotee, that is 2 extra deck slots that, again, are really not going to be useful at all outside of, like, going first on turn 1 exactly. So in a lot of ways, I can definitely see why a build like this would be more popular. And as I was playing it, I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. So I'm definitely going to be testing this kind of Mathmech variation quite a bit more. And if you also play this kind of variant, definitely let me know in the comments below and let me know what you think of it. But let's just go ahead and break the list down card by card, and then we'll look at some games. So we are on 3 Effect Veiler, 1 Dotscaper, 1 Microcoder, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Mathmech Sigma, 2 Mathmech Addition, 2 Mathmech Subtraction, 1 Mathmech Multiplication, 2 Mathmech Diameter, 3 Mathmech Circular, 3 Parallel Exceed, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Cynet Mining, 1 Mathmech Equation, 3 Small World, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 1 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Mathmech Superfactorial, and then 1 Cynet Conflict. There is our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Primathmech Laplacian, 2 Primathmech Alembertain, 1 Mereologic Aggregator, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Linguriboh, 1 Cyberse Wicckid, 1 Update Jammer, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Splash Mage, 1 G-Golem Crystal Heart. If you're wondering what this is for bringing back your Transcode Talker, which is our next card, 1 Decode Talker Heatsoul, 1 Accesscode Talker, and then 1 Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid Neo Tempest Terahertz. That's what it is. So, alright, there is our list. Let's see some gameplay. Alright, so our first opponent is going to be on Tier Limits, which, it's funny, I'm actually used to saying that, but I'm still used to saying it from Tier 0 format, because we definitely do not see Tier Limits around too often at all post-Merle ban. Could be taking the first turn here, and this is a phenomenal opening hand. We have Diameter, Circular. We don't even need this Small World that's in our hand. Gonna start by using Circular, dumping the Sigma. Opponent's got a Maxx, but we have the Called By as previously mentioned, so that's gonna get fired off pretty quickly to banish and negate the Maxx there. Excuse me, sorry about that. Alright, Circular coming down onto the board. I'm going to normal summon the Diameter. This will do a couple of things. Of course, I get to bring back the Sigma with Diameter's effect, but it'll also allow me to activate the Circular while it's still chain blocking it. So we're guaranteed getting the Superfactorial, and we've already got the setup here to summon the Superfactorial, to summon the Laplacian rather with the Superfactorial, including Diameter's negate. But we're of course going to extend beyond that. We have the Alembertain, we're summoning and making that with the Diameter, so that way we have the Omni Negate on the field. We also now get to bring back Sigma with its own effects, because remember we brought it back with Diameter last time. Linking the Subtraction and Circular offers Splash Mage. Splash Mage is going to bring back the Subtraction. Going to go ahead and link those two off for the Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker now gets to bring back the Splash Mage, and then we can use Splash Mage plus Sigma in order to make the Decode Talker Heatsoul. And again, Because of our particular hand, we were able to do all this while keeping the Alembertain up. And again, the reason it was important to have the Alembertain on the field is because we made the Alembertain using the Mathmech Diameter. So just in case our opponent had another Disrupt or had like a Nibiru or something, I've been making this point a lot in videos this season, but because it's the first season in a while where it's been relevant. But Nibiru, you always have to be thinking about Nibiru when it comes to making especially long form combo plays, right? And a lot of the time, you don't always need to assume your opponent has it, but it's definitely not a bad idea to assume your opponent has it, or at the very least ask the question, what do I do if I get Nibiru'd here, right? So Heatsoul is going to draw us a card now, drawing us an effect veiler, which I'm actually going to use with a small world now, because I can extend even further into more plays. What I'm going to do is use the small world with the veiler to add the subtraction, and I'm going to take a little bit of a gamble here. I don't think my opponent has Nibiru, so I'm going to go into the terahertz from here, going into the opponent's turn. Now, this might seem a little bit weird, right? You may be thinking, well, Hex, what are you doing? The terahertz is an OTK tool. What does it do? You know, what good does it do to make it turn 1? You even gave up a negate in your effect veiler in order to be able to do that. However, the terahertz does also represent a negate. Remember that we have the Mereologic Aggregator here in the extra deck. So as long as I make sure that I time it right, where the Mereologic Aggregator is going to be on its own separate chain link, I can use the terahertz effect as a kind of negate effect. So the terahertz can also potentially stack a lot of attack points by using this effect during my opponent's turn, and then again on my turn it'll have 8,000 attack. So drawing during the opponent's draw phase off a Heatsoul. On top of that, I also have the Imperm and the Superfactorial set up, so I don't know, I'm not the most worried in the world here. Opponent is going to throw out a Heartbeat after starting with the Danger Mothman play. Sorry about that, drops on my pen there. The Superfactorial... Yeah, where is that? Here it is. The Superfactorial is going to activate and then resolve here. I'm chaining it, of course, because the Heartbeat is threatening to remove it, but we can Laplacian now. That's fine, too. It's actually not even that bad, because what I can do here is I can actually use Laplacian on the Rhino Heart, which will banish it, and it'll kind of limit what the tier limit monster my opponent's about to send from their deck to the graveyard is really able to do for them here. The Goki Pole ends up being what I discard, which is not the best in the world here. So, as my opponent goes to summon the, off the Havness here, I'm going to chain the Dark Fluid effect here. And the main reason that I'm doing this is that on the off chance my opponent has a tier limit monster in their hand as well and ends up summoning the Kit Colosse, I want to be able to negate it and not necessarily have to commit my Imperm. I'd like to save the Imperm if possible, because the Aggregator negate is in general going to be the more difficult one to use, and the one that's like kind of more niche case useful. So I'd rather kind of fire that off sooner if at all possible. Looking back though, my opponent's only got 2 cards in hand. I really don't think it's that likely that they have a tier limit monster in their hand, and I could have absolutely timed this a lot better. I will definitely be the first to admit that. Also, I'm kind of surprised my opponent didn't summon Winda here. I guess to be fair, I just battle over Winda. I was going to say that Winda would really screw me over, but my opponent wouldn't be able to extend, and I can just battle over it, so yeah, never mind. In a lot of ways, I don't really know what my opponent was ever going to summon besides the Mud Dragon, so going for a rank 4, they're going to make Dugaris the Timeless, and I think I'm just going to end up, negating it with the Laplacian here. I'm saving the Imperm again because the Laplacian negate is only going to be for the duration of this turn, so if I don't use it this turn, I lose it. But Imperm I can obviously potentially hold on to and then save for another turn there. Ultimately, that'll cause my opponent to concede. I probably could have played that better, but it is still kind of cool that we actually had the opportunity to summon the terahertz on the first turn, and even then also use it as a disrupt. Well, we didn't ultimately really end up using it as a disrupt, but had we played it a little bit better, I think we could have. So there's our first duel. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one here. Okay, this game is going to be against a hero deck. Alright, let's hop right on in and see. I'm trying to remember actually who goes first here. Okay, we go first here. Got it. So got a couple of small worlds, the Parallel Exceed, the Diameter, and the Ash Blossom. Not bad. I mean, the second small world is obviously not that great of a draw. Opponent is going to ultimately Ash Blossom the small world, which is pretty rough. However, we do absolutely still have plays here. I can normal summon the Diameter, and because it is a normal summoned monster with 1000 or less attack, we can link off into Almiraj. This will allow me to activate the Parallel Exceed, and then go straight into the other Parallel Exceed, allowing me to in turn to summon the Alembertain. This is actually what makes Parallel Exceed pretty good as an extender, is that it allows you to go into a rank 4 with only itself, just the one card in your hand. So, gonna use Circular. I'm still sending Sigma here because we can actually still summon Sigma. What I can do is, as you saw, I used Alembertain to tribute off the Almiraj and then summon the Diameter. This will make it so I don't have any monsters in my extra monster zone, and I could summon Sigma. But I'm actually not even going to do that because I don't even need to summon Sigma here in order to make my plays. And if I summon Sigma and then link it off, it'll just get banished. So, because I can go into the Transcode Talker plus the Heatsoul, without it, I'm not even going to really bother, again, summoning the Sigma here. Alright, here's the Heatsoul. We're going to get a couple more draws here. Setting the Superfactorial and then going back over to our opponent's turn. It's really nice when you can get the advantage even after your opponent has already used the Disruption. So here they're going to summon Stratos, and I'm just going to go ahead and chain the Ash Blossom. I normally like to wait and hold my Superfactorial. I've seen a lot of people who will activate Superfactorial like right away during the opponent's draw phase. And I think what they're trying to do is get the Omni Negate of Diameter under the Laplacian out onto the field as soon as possible, so that way they can use the Negate as soon as possible. And I don't think that's necessarily an awful idea, but I don't think it's necessarily the best one either. I think that the best way to get advantage off of Diameter is to hit at least 2 cards, one from the opponent's hand and one from their field. That way you're gaining direct advantage off of it, and on top of that, you're still having the Omni Negate. So even if your opponent has a further play after that, you can still use the Omni Negate. So that's why I'm not using the Superfactorial just yet, and why I use the Ash Blossom on the Stratos instead. Here's the other thing too, right? If I Ash Blossom my opponent's Stratos, sometimes they're just done and they don't have any more plays after that, right? And in that case, I don't even need the Superfactorial here, and I could potentially hold it for a later point in the game if I end up, trying to go for an OTK, but my opponent has Disruption, even if they don't have another extender. Like, if I try to go for an access code next turn and my opponent drops a Nibiru, I'm going to be really glad I still have the Superfactorial face down. This is kind of a video concept I've had it before. I really want to talk about the idea of being patient with your negates. I don't really know how to make that into a whole video. But anyway, going back to the game at hand here, Stratos is going to get negated by the Ash Blossom. My opponent's going to set a back row, and I thought they passed actually, but no, they just conceded right after that. Probably because they knew as soon as they go to end phase, I'm just going to flip up super. Well, I don't know. There's kind of pros and cons to doing it during the end phase and waiting. If I do it during the end phase, I can get the back row before they can use it. But if I wait till my turn, then I'll have the Diameter Omni Negate for my turn. So, I don't know. There's multiple ways you could do it. But whatever way we'd have chosen to do it, apparently our opponent was not able to play through it. So, there is that duel. Let's go ahead and see the next one here. Got a game against Adventure Synchron here. So, it seems to be a pretty... I don't know. I don't really know what a standard Synchron build is, actually, because I don't have too much experience with the deck. Okay, we are going second this time around, and opening pretty well going second. We have the Valor and the Ash Blossom here. No back C or anything like that, but definitely still got a decent amount of stuff here. Opponent's going to start by specialing the Assault Synchron, and then normaling the Water Enchantress, going for the Excel Synchron. Now they're going to try to use the Water Enchantress effect, but I definitely want to Ash Blossom that because I definitely don't want the Griffin Rider the Omni Negate to come up here. So the Excel Synchron does send as a cost, so I'm not going to use the Valor here. I'm going to wait until my opponent has another effect I want to negate. Looks like they're going to sack off the Excel Synchron for the Stardust Synchron. That lets them get back Stardust Trail and allowing them to sync for 8. Going for a Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. One of my favorites. I'm going to negate the Chaos Ruler here because my opponent only has 2 cards in their hand, and I don't think it's super likely they'll be able to continue to combo off with that few amount of resources. Now, we only have 3 cards in our hand, but, we already have Subtraction and Diameter, so we're already good to go. Cynet Conflict is definitely not that great of a draw. I'm actually not even going to end up using the small world here because I can already combo off with what I have. And more importantly, here I can set up an Accesscode OTK and have an Omni Negate to protect the entire combo line. By doing, well, literally exactly what you saw here, right? I special the subtraction and then normal the diameter going to Alembertain. Though I will say this much, I could have actually done that a lot better. I could have... Well, no, sorry, because Almiraj only works on a special summoned monster, a normal summoned monster. Although I could have... Okay, if my opponent hadn't gone into this zone... No, Linguriboh still would have worked. I could have special subtraction, linked into the Linguriboh, normal diameter... Yeah, and then gone into Alembertain. So I did actually miss out on a material. I could have had a Linguriboh, but that's not really going to matter that much, because I'm just going to go for the Alembertain anyway, adding the Circular, and then activating Circular, sending Sigma. And just like last time with the Almiraj, what I could have done to make my Sigma live is I could have used the Alembertain to sack off the Linguriboh, and then bring back like the subtraction or the diameter or whatever. So... yeah, I did ultimately lose out on having an extra body on the board, but I don't really need it in order to OTK here. The Circular adding the Equation is already going to be enough to make the access code without having to use the Alembertain, which again has the diameter Omni Negate. So even if my opponent draws the Nibiru and all these draws I'm giving them, it's not going to be enough. Although I will say if they had... well, no, if they had Imperm plus Nibiru... No, that would be enough. If they Nibiru'd at the end of the main phase... yeah, no, if they had Imperm plus Nibiru, both would have been enough. So that might have even been an early concede on my opponent's part if they actually do run both those cards. But, I don't know. Either way, we end up winning. So, we can speculate all we want. But the duel ended with us winning. So, yeah, that's good. We have one more game to check out. Let's go into it here. Alright, looks like Dinos are going to end up being our last opponent. Don't remember, again, I'm just struggling to remember if I went first or second. Okay, another going second game. So another game where we're probably looking to Accesscode OTK. Opening with an Ash Blossom as our disrupt here, but it looks like the opponent just completely whiffed. That's pretty brutal, honestly. Okay, they have a Maxx of their own, but we have the Ash Blossom. Well, I don't know why I said of their own. It's not like we had a Maxx. It's because they just passed. I wonder what kind of a hand you would have to not play anything at all turn one. It's probably going to be a hand with a lot of disruption, honestly. Like, we saw the Maxx already. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ash, Imperm, Valor, Nib, some combination of those from the opponent here. In that regard, I'm actually going to go for the Linguriboh first here, before normal summoning the Diameter and then going for the Alembertain. This is once again what I was kind of talking about last time, right? And this is definitely how I like to play my Mathmech going second plays in particular. By having both the Linguriboh and the Alembertain up, we threaten to block the Imperm with the Linguriboh, and then literally anything with the Alembertain having the Diameter negate. We still haven't even used Circular yet, so we can go for that. And if we need to summon Sigma, again, we can always just use Alembertain to sack off the Linguriboh, and then we're good. We also do have a call by the way, so I'm not even really concerned about something like Ash Blossom here. I'm really more thinking about using the Alembertain negate on something like a Nibiru, or maybe like a Gamma, etc., etc. But the Imperm, again, we're already covered because Linguriboh can just use its effect to stop trap cards. Alright, Alembertain is going to add us the Circular, going to be activating Circular's effect, and once again the opponent concedes. I do wish I would have gotten to show off more of these going second OTK lines, but, you know, I don't blame my opponents for conceding when they did necessarily either. So that's going to ultimately end up doing it for this video. I hope you all liked me showing off this variant of Mathmech. I think it's really interesting that you can, you know, do a completely different turn one combo line and still have just a very solid deck overall. But I think maybe the time has kind of come and passed for Link Disciple and Link Devotee, like I was originally using, and the Terahertz. The Terahertz is absolutely a very good tool that, as we saw, could even potentially be used going first sometimes. But that'll go ahead and do it for these games. Let's just move now to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.